We've fought wars over land, over oil, over ideologies. But what if the next big global conflicts are fought over something we all completely take for granted? Today, we're going to dig into a resource so fundamental, so absolutely essential to life, that its scarcity could totally redefine global security. Let's get right into it.
So let me just ask you this. When you think about wars over resources, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, for decades, the answer was obvious, right? Oil. But the 21st century, well, it's presenting a new, and honestly, maybe a more terrifying flashpoint.
That's right, water. The battle for fresh water. I mean, think about it. It's the one thing we literally cannot live without. Its distribution around the globe is incredibly uneven, and as our population explodes and our industries get thirstier, the potential for conflict is just skyrocketing.
And here's the real kicker. Water just doesn't care about our maps. It doesn't respect borders. Most of the world's freshwater is tied up in these transboundary systems. So when a river flows through one country, then another, and then another, who gets to decide how it's used? That, right there, is where the trouble always starts.
Okay, so in our first section, let's look at the forces that are really cranking up the pressure on these shared water systems. The things that are turning what might be a simple disagreement into a full-blown potential crisis.
And let's just start with the sheer scale of this whole thing. Nearly half, think about that, half of all people on Earth live in a country that shares a river, a lake, or an underground aquifer with its neighbors. So this isn't some small niche issue. No way. It's a global reality that connects billions of us.
So what's turning up the heat? Well, it's basically a perfect storm of factors. You've got booming populations and thirsty industries all demanding more and more water. And at the same time, you have countries making these huge unilateral decisions, like, hey, we're going to build a massive dam, often without even talking to their neighbors downstream.
And then, layered on top of all of that, you have climate change. You'll hear it called a threat multiplier, and there's a really good reason for that. It just takes all the existing problems and makes them worse. It makes dry places even drier and wet regions more prone to catastrophic floods. That kind of volatility makes managing water, well, it makes it incredibly difficult.
All right, so let's move on and see how this actually plays out in the real world. We're going to zoom in now on 3 specific regions where the struggle for water is already shaping geopolitics in a huge way.
First up, the legendary Nile River. It snakes through 11 different countries and is the absolute lifeblood for millions of people. This has created a geopolitical flashpoint of, honestly, epic proportions in northeastern Africa.
So here's the setup. Ethiopia, which is upstream, is building this absolutely massive dam, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, to generate electricity and really fuel its development. But for Egypt, way downstream, which depends on the Nile for almost all of its fresh water, that dam is seen as a direct threat to its very survival. And then you have Sudan, stuck right in the middle of it all.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? For a country like Egypt, this isn't just about politics or economics, it's about existence. And when the stakes get that high, the potential for conflict, it just goes through the roof.
Okay, now let's jump over to another ancient cradle of civilization, the Tigris-Euphrates Basin. This is a place where water tensions have been simmering and sometimes boiling over for decades.
The dynamic here is pretty similar. You've got Turkey sitting at the headwaters, which has built a whole series of dams to power its economy, but the downstream effect has been huge. It's significantly choked the water flow to its neighbors, Syria and Iraq, causing massive problems for their farms and environment, and countries, by the way, already dealing with so much instability.
And for our final hotspot, we're going to go to one of the most volatile geopolitical regions on the entire planet, where water is deeply, deeply tangled up with a historic and bitter rivalry.
India and Pakistan share the waters of the Indus River. Now, there's a treaty from 1960 that's supposed to manage all this. But India's new construction projects on some of the shared tributaries, well, that's a huge source of tension. For Pakistan, which is incredibly dependent on the Indus for its agriculture, any change to that water flow is seen with deep, deep suspicion, especially with the whole conflict over Kashmir always simmering in the background.
So after looking at all these hotspots, wow, it's easy to feel like conflict is the only way this can end. In our final section, let's step back and ask, what does the future actually hold? Is it all doom and gloom? This is the big question, isn't it? And what the source material suggests is that while tensions are dangerously high, full-scale wars haven't actually broken out. Yet, the path forward, it seems, is still very much ours to choose.
And it really does feel like we're standing at a fork in the road. Down one path, you've got all the drivers of conflict. Countries just doing their own thing, rising nationalism, the worsening impacts of climate change. But on the other path, you have a clear way forward. International treaties, new technologies, diplomacy, and just good old-fashioned cooperation.
The way forward really requires some concrete action. We need strong and forcible international agreements, not just vague promises. We have to invest in smart technologies, things like advanced desalination or super-efficient irrigation that help us do more with less. And maybe most important of all, we need to make diplomacy and cooperation the default setting, not the last resort.
And that, right there, is really the ultimate takeaway. At the end of the day, this isn't just an environmental issue. It's a peace and security issue. How we manage water in the coming decades is going to have a direct impact on global stability. Period. So I'll just leave you with this question to mull over. As our world gets thirstier and more crowded, which path are we going to choose? Is it going to be cooperation, or is it going to be conflict? The choice we make, all of us, collectively, is going to determine the future of our most precious resource. Thanks for joining me.